While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today. Thank you so much for joining us here today on this wonderful, beautiful Monday. We're live here on WYSL until 2 p.m., so you can give us a call if you're listening today, either on the radio on WYSL or online on a Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, Free Solution group, or the Kevin Wilson page, 1000. That's 585-346-3000. Or if you're listening online, of course, you may leave a comment as well. And a couple issues we're going to talk about today. You know, I kind of covered this a little bit in the last segment of my Wednesday show. And then Tim and I had a little bonus show online too, where we talked about this a tiny bit as well. But, you know, I want to talk a little bit more deeply about some of the executive orders that Kathy Hochul put out in response to the Buffalo shooter, and what that means, and what sort of protections, risks to our liberties, etc., that they pose. You know, and then briefly, I want to talk about some school board election stuff, just some observations as someone who didn't vote in the recent round that we saw locally, and then, of course, I want to talk about monkeypox briefly too, because it's starting to get hit the news. And you know, it's funny, we're seeing some of the same patterns that we saw at the beginning of COVID too, good and bad. You know, so like, how do we evaluate this, knowing what we've seen over the last 2 years? Again, just keep in mind that I'm a public health expert. I'm some dude just opining on the radio, trying to look at it like most of you are looking at this. Like, what do we as average people like make of this? How do we evaluate this? What risk is actually available, whether or not we're being scared into something, right? So we'll talk about, well, you know, let me talk about the school board election stuff first. I'm going to talk about school board election stuff first, and then I'm going to talk about the Kathy Hochul stuff. And here's the thing with school board election, you know, it's pretty mixed results. You know, I know like there's a lot of conservatives who are running in my area who are trying to fight, you know, like the critical race theory stuff. There's also some progressives who are very much about like trying to implement, you know, anti-racism training and stuff like that. Again, I don't have my kid isn't in school yet. You know, it's not a decision. That's not something I've had to grapple with yet, is experiencing the school system firsthand. You know, I'm listening to folks, I'm talking with folks, I'm kind of seeing the platforms, and just anecdotally, like the fight that exists online and among the very politically oriented classes is very different from like most average parents. And it's most average parents are just like, man, I just want my kid to come out learning to read, learning to do basic math. I just want them to build the foundation of learning to build a successful career. And Tim O'Connor comments online and says, you'll be homeschooling. Yeah, no, I probably will be. That's kind of the plan. And again, when I see, honestly, like both the right-wing folks and the left-wing folks run for office, and the push for further politicization of education, I'm like, man, I don't want nothing to do with that. I don't want the side, because again, average parents, that's what they're looking at, right? They're like, well, you know, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with some of the direction that the far left is taking education. I don't want my child to be in a classroom doing a struggle session where they like examine their own whiteness at like 5 or 6 years old, right? Like, it's just, for the most part, they would prefer that their kids just play and learn the basics of reading. It's a little bit, it seems unnecessary for some folks. It's not to ignore the history of our country. It's just that, particularly at the young ages, like some of the stuff they're seeing strikes them as inappropriate at that age. Again, we've talked about education issues in the past, what's going on in Florida with the parental right and education bill slash don't say gay bill, depending on your your viewpoint on it. There's bills like that all around the country. There's like the anti-CRT stuff that goes on in Florida. And my position on this is kind of similar, right? Like there's folks who are trying to make similar pushes as what DeSantis has done in Florida here locally too, and trying to implement it on the school board level, which is going to be difficult given the resourcing from New York State and the restrictions that many school boards face. But they're trying to do it anyway, and a lot of those candidates didn't win. A handful did locally. I'm not going to do a deep dive into the specific results, but a lot of those candidates didn't end up succeeding. And again, I think part of the reason why is that there's the familiarity of incumbents, and a lot of people see that as also a politicization of education. And some of those folks, they got the perception that what they actually wanted to do was eliminate the ability to talk about hard issues, the ability to talk about race, and the ability to talk about people who have other family structures. And they don't want that either. They want the ability to not restrict that stuff, but also not to make the classroom all about that. The most average parents, again, what they're hoping for out of a school experience is not to be indoctrinated with communism or whatever right wing thing is trendy nowadays, where they control and manipulate the curriculum at any level of government. They want kids to be able to have somewhat self-directed education in that, again, gives them the foundation for an successful adult life. They don't want the culture wars to be something that their children are learning about and fighting about in the classroom. And I know folks from both sides would say, well, the left wing would say, well, my goodness, they have to learn about this stuff, and these are realities that people face, and you're, uh, expressing your white privilege by saying that like your children shouldn't have to worry about this because children of color have to worry about this. Yeah, I know, but like, listen, most of the time, like 5, 6, 7-year-olds, they just want to be kids. They just want to play. They just want to build friendships, and it doesn't matter as much to them. And that's how most, again, that's me saying that, and that's how most parents feel about this. Is like just let the kids play, let the kids learn, let the kids build the emotional intelligence at those ages to be able to i- figure out how to make meaningful friendships. And then the conservatives say, no, if we don't strike first, if we don't restrict this, if we don't stop this, that's the inevitable result of not using the state to intervene in this case. We have to restrict the ability of anyone to teach anything related to what is alleged to be critical race theory stuff or anything else that meets the left's agenda. If we don't use the state to restrict this, where will we go next? Again, the problem with that is again, you're still using the state to limit education, and B, a lot of times that ends up going too far. What happened in Florida, and the reason why a lot of it was getting shut down, was because it ended up restricting essentially any honest discussion of US history, because there is ugly stuff that exists there, and that stuff needs to be talked about later on, especially. You need to talk about what happened with slavery in an honest and sometimes brutal way. You need to talk about the, you know, the institutions that the founding fathers are part of. They did have slaves. They did do stuff that was ugly, even while building a constitution and writing the Declaration of Independence that set the foundation for a freer and successful society, one that they did not themselves live up to. That is a conversation worth having. It's worth having, honest and brutal conversations about atrocities worldwide too, like the Holocaust. Like, you need to have that. And restricting the ability to do so ends up with a limiting education. And again, that's why, as Tim mentioned in the comments, I'm probably going to be homeschooling my kid eventually. That's probably the direction I'm going to be going, because I want, him and any future kids I have to be able to assess what they need to learn to interact with well-meaning educators who want to help them get the resource they need, and for those educators to push my son and any other children I eventually have to strive towards finding the truth. It's not about indoctrination. It's not about the obedience of being in the classroom. It's not about the institutionalization of that many schools push you into. It's about that search for truth, that search for meaning, that search for useful education to be able to drive them to success wherever they may go. And the more deeply we dive into the culture wars that we have today, the further parents feel alienated from the systems that they're given. Oh, just send your kid to wherever you're geographically assigned. Okay. Why do you think so many parents are leaving the school system? It's COVID and it's politics. And politics, again, from left and right. A lot of folks are just saying, hey, we have the technology, we have the means, we have the knowledge now to be able to find new ways to educate our children. We don't need to do it in the same way that we've been doing for 100 years, which isn't even, it's not the only way to be able to educate kids anymore. I don't know. Maybe I'll feel differently when I have to actually figure that out, when I have to actually do stuff to facilitate my kids' education. And it's going to be hard not to just default to, well, the state has this option here and I can take care of them. Go here. He'll be fine. I'm sure it's good. Again, no disrespect to parents who are doing that. It's just, I get why many parents are opting out of that. Thanks again for joining us here on Free Solution. If you want to participate in the show, give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. When we come back, we're going to be talking about, in detail, the executive orders that are coming through from Governor Kathy Hochul. We'll be back just a few minutes here on A Free Solution.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Oh, those injury attorney ads.
Hurt on your couch? Call 555-OUCH.
It's kind of cute watching that injury attorney buying breakfast for a crash test dummy, but while fun is fun, there's nothing amusing about getting your life back together after a personal injury or a motorcycle accident, or when you need defense for a DWI charge. Christopher Johnson takes your case seriously, and you'll feel like you're his only client because when you meet with him, your case gets 100% of his attention. So instead of cute singing jingles and magic phone numbers,
fall out of a tree? Call 33333.
write this number down and keep it with you. 585-415-3803. 415-3803. After all, Christopher Johnson knows you're no dummy. Get individual attention and integrity, experience, and expertise. Put the power of one on your legal team. 415-3803. Stay safe, be healthy, drive sober. Christopher Johnson Attorney, personal injury, car or motorcycle accidents, DWI defense.
As a veteran of the United States military, I can finally get the opportunity to enjoy special events, things that we couldn't afford, thanks to VetTix. Every empty seat at a concert, a game, or a play is a missed opportunity to say thanks to a veteran and service member. We can give our veterans a special event where they too can create their own cherished memories. Visit vettix.org. Find out how you can make a difference in a veteran's life.
Only available in the WISL store at WISL1040.com. Official top quality tees, hoodies, and coffee mugs depicting the colorful WISL logo or the already famous Mount Worstmore line of merch depicting Mount Rushmore style are for worst presidents. Of course, you know who is front and center up on that mountain. WISL official items make perfect gifts, or they're a great way for you to make a personal statement. Locally produced and sold only in the WISL store at WISL1040.com.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thanks again for joining us here on this wonderful Monday. Give us a call if you'd like to participate in the show, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Or leave your comments online. Again, the Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, the group, or the Kevin Wilson pages, wherever you want to leave those comments, any of those choices. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about Kathy Hochul's executive orders, and again, these came out like as I was doing my show last Wednesday. There's a few different aspects to it, right? There's the social media aspect of it. There's the red flag law aspect of it, and then there's the kind of overlapping criminal like investigation aspect of it, where the state is trying to monitor social media for radical behavior that they think could be a risk for violence. And again, let me throw out this PSA for some folks too. If you post anything on social media, you post anything on Facebook, Twitter, etc., like any public forums, that is something that police can look at. Like, just even if it's just to your friends, right? Like, some folks have said, like, oh, well, no one can see this, just my friends. Like, listen, if you post something where you are threatening violence, or you're just insulting someone, or you're doing whatever that you wouldn't want seen by anyone else, if you post that on social media, this is my PSA. Most adults understand this, but that is public. It is 100% public. Even if it's just friends only, doesn't matter. If you don't want someone to see it, don't post it on social media, because someone can screenshot it, someone can share it, someone can do whatever, tell them about this thing if you don't want to see that. So part of what this is again, law enforcement right now can find that stuff if someone reports it to them, right? Like, they're, the extent to which various intelligence agencies from federal on down can look at your stuff is, if you put it out publicly, it's there. The field of debate is more, how proactive should they be in engaging in semi-private spaces to see that information? I mean, even like private groups, if you post something, again, someone can screenshot that. If you're gonna post something where you say you're gonna do violence in a private group, that's playing a stupid game. You're gonna win a stupid prize. You're at best, you're gonna get kicked off of Facebook. At worst, you're going to, get a visit by police. And that's my again. It sounds silly. I know most adults listening to this are like, well, yeah, that's obvious. Duh. Not as obvious as you think. So police can look at this stuff. They can already see it. So anything posted in a group, anything posted on your page, even if friends only, that's all public. The kind of field of domain is again private chat groups, encrypted messages, things like that. That's where a lot of law enforcement organizations want to get involved, but either they're technologically unable because of encryption, or they are constitutionally unable because that's protected communication, and they would need a warrant to get that, unless social media companies voluntarily turn it over, which in some cases they might. And then the extent to which all that communication is monitored, well, we know that through the Edward Snowden leaks that much of it is through, NSA spying on communications between U.S. citizens and residents and any foreign nationals. So some of that, again, that's the bright line where that is. But if you post it public, it's a bit different. So what this task force is going to be doing is something that we're going to watch closely, because again, are they monitoring public groups for this stuff? Well, that stuff's sort of public, and again, when you're posting there, you should treat it as such. Are they going to be trying to access messages? Well, I don't know. That's why I want to, again, is it appropriate? Is it useful to use law enforcement resources on this? Maybe. I don't know. Again, if someone's dumb enough to post stuff violently, and they are doing violently like this, the guy who shot up the tops in Buffalo, he talked about going to Rochester and doing the same thing, literally threatening the area where my in-laws go shopping, the tops over there. They shop. They live on the west side of Rochester. It's where they live. It's where they do their shopping. It's where they hang out. Talked about shooting up people over there, and in our city, that could have been a target. Could have happened here. Posting it in different groups. I know is on 4chan and 8chan and Discord and all this stuff. So that type of stuff, if it's public information, people should report it again. And then the next step is, well, what does law enforcement do about it? We discussed this on the show too, is whether or not the red flag laws as they exist now ought to have flagged this individual and prevented him from purchasing a firearm. And the Broome County District Attorney, Michael Korchak, had determined that the state police, that educators, that mental health care workers acted appropriately in doing what they had done, right? Again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's saying that there's no apparent legal culpability for how they acted in relation to this. And what the new executive order says is that state police will have to file red flag law request if they think an individual is a threat to themselves or others. So it might be that we might see a lot more red flag requests come through. So we'll see. What we want to do is we want to keep monitoring the situation, what the details, what the guidance are related to this. Says that the governor is going to provide additional criteria for what they have to do, but it might be that they become almost like state police become almost like mandated reporters in certain situations. When someone goes through a mental health crisis, when someone makes a threat, it might now not be a thing where someone has to then go out of their way to file a special red flag law request. They have to choose that. They might be required to by state law. And what criteria go into that are important. And some of that might make sense. Again, if someone is violently threatening to harm people, maybe that is a good use of that. And I don't know how I feel about that one, because I don't particularly like this law, but I understand if someone is threatening others and is looking for a means to threaten others, maybe that's worth stopping. Maybe that's worth pausing for a second. Good. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. If the state could have intervened in this situation, should they have? Constitutionally. Because protecting our rights is important, and people understandably want to think that, well, if the state has the tools to intervene on someone who's making violent threats, that they ought to do so. Will this lead to more constitutional violations, though? And is that a worthwhile trade-off? And I understand that many people are going to answer yes, because this man took 10 lives. Can't get that back. Is it worth being proactive, precautious, in taking away someone's right to bear arms if we think that they may hurt someone? That's what this law is intended to do. Again, give us a call, 585-346-3000, if you want to weigh in on this. It's going to be interesting to see, again, what that criteria is. Because the flip side of that is, again, if someone's seeking mental health support for depression, if they're seeking mental health support for anything else, most people with mental illness have no intent to hurt someone. They're just trying to get help. And they may be more reluctant to go and get help if they're worried that doctors or police will immediately, automatically file a red flag request and get their firearms taken away. That's the thing that worries me, that it will result in fewer people going to get the mental health support that they need. Because again, most people with mental illness, they're not going to hurt anybody. And they need help. And we ought to encourage people as much as possible to get help. Will this have a detrimental effect on that? All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. When we come back, we'll talk about a few other aspects of the executive orders coming out from Kathy Hochul, Governor Hochul, here in New York. Give us a call if you want to participate, 553463000. That's 553463000. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
Celebrating 35 years.
WYSL.
AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. We'll have partly cloudy skies. We'll see temperatures dip down into the lower 40s. So a little cool out there on Tuesday. Should be a beautiful day. Sunshine, clouds, dry, a little milder up near 70. Wednesday looking pretty good as well. A little milder, still mid-70s with partly cloudy skies. More humid, warmer, maybe some showers and storms Thursday near 80. I'm Rich Canilia, WYSL.
Celebrate good weather adventures with a new ride from Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Anthony Drive off Route 96 in Victor. Enjoy the freedom and fresh air of one of America's favorite four-wheel drive vehicles, like the 22 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4x4, just $369 a month for 36 months. Must be returning lessee. The 2022 Ram 1500 Classic Warlock Quad Cab 4x4 pickup is just $279 a month for 36 months. Must be Conquest lessee. The 22 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 is just $299 a month for 36 months. Must have Conquest to be returning lessee. And a 22 Jeep Wrangler Sport 4x4 convertible is just $389 a month for 42 months. $2,500 cash or trade, $4,000 for Grand Cherokee L. First payment, DMV, taxes, and fees due at signing. Other conditions may apply. See dealer for details. We're here to fully serve Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram customers in Victor, Canandaigua, Macedon, Fairport, and throughout the Metro and Finger Lakes. Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram 6560 Anthony Drive in Victor.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Enjoy dozens of exhibits related to your home and your health at the Greece Regional Chamber's 2022 Health and Home Expo at the Mall at Greece Ridge on Saturday, June 4th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Lead sponsors are LaChase Construction Services, Bartolomeo and Parado Funeral Home, Bryant and Stratton College, Home Instead Senior Care, 13 WHAM ABC, and WYSL. To find out more, visit us online today at greecechamber.org. The Greece Regional Chamber's Health and Home Expo at the Mall at Greece Ridge on Saturday, June 4th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
It's one of the most essential things on earth, being cared for close to home. UR Medicine brings specialty care to the people of Geneseo and the surrounding area, so you don't have to travel to Rochester for a mammogram, heart care, or even outpatient surgery. To learn more about UR Medicine services in your community, go to geneseo.urmc.edu. UR Medicine, medicine of the highest order.
Are skyrocketing costs causing you to look at your budget and pinching your wallet? Your auto, home, and business insurance doesn't need to follow suit. Get a fair and honest rate comparison with the knowledgeable staff at the Long Agency, your local insurance agent. Contact us at 585-658-3342 or longagency.com. Proudly representing Erie Insurance. Long Agency, insurance worth having.
Did you know that half of the population avoids regular dental visits because of fear? Sedation dentistry provided by a visiting anesthesiologist at Lakeview Dental allows you to relax and safely correct years of complex dental problems. Remember that dental health affects whole body wellness, not just teeth. At Lakeview Dental, they understand your fears. Visit livoniasmiles.com or call 346-3028. Lakeview Dental, for the smile of a healthier you.
4,
That's how many times Eagle Vale Golf Course has been voted Rochester's best. Whether it's for golf, dining, business, or pleasure, Eagle Vale is for you. Visit them today at eaglevale.com or call 377-5200.
FM Talk.
Have your covfefe with Jim Quinn, weekday mornings on the WYSL stations.
Should I address you as Mr. President or Your Highness the MAGA King?
The great MAGA King. He said that's going to be very destructive.
WYSL. A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today. Thanks again for joining us. We're live here on WYSL until 2 p.m. So give us a call if you want to participate in the show. That's 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Or, of course, you can leave your comments on the Facebook page, the Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, Free Solution group, or the Kevin Wilson pages, wherever you listen today. Again, appreciate you. And, you know, we got a comment from so Gene, and it says, all my posts are public. Again, I talked about this last segment. It's if you put something out on social media, assume it's public. Doesn't matter. Again, the messages, you might have a little bit of a better assumption of privacy, but you probably shouldn't. But if you put something out as a post on your page, it's there for everyone to consume. That's what it is. And kind of touching on that subject again, it's the governor has asked the Attorney General, Letitia James, to do an investigation of the companies who the governor's accusing of facilitating white supremacy and the act that this guy did out in Buffalo to target specifically a high concentration of Black people in that area. And so like Twitch, 4chan, 8chan, and Discord are the ones that they're going after. And again, Twitch, I don't get, right? Like, again, they took down this guy's video in 2 minutes. Like, just really incredible. Again, and a lot of social media companies, for better or worse, do respond to threats, legitimate threats of violence as, you know, something to take seriously and report to law enforcement. And that's a good thing. Again, if someone is legitimately threatened to hurt someone, either in a way to facilitate terrorism or in a personal way too, that's something we want to do something about. That there's a legitimate use of police. And again, as libertarian as I am, you know, I definitely think that there is a legitimate use for the legitimate use of force that we grant to the police, and that's to stop some people from the immediate threat of hurting other people. Now, that immediate threat part is important because, again, there are very, very, very few limitations to free speech. Governor Hochul says that there are limitations to free speech, but that is not the same as what she said. She says, I'll protect the First Amendment any day of the week, but again, don't believe anything before but. Governor Hochul goes on, you don't protect hate speech. You don't protect incendiary speech. You're not allowed to scream fire in a crowded theater. There are limitations on speech. The limitations of speech are immediate threats of, again, ignore my lack of legal specificity, but it's immediate, incredible threats of violence is the layman's term for that. Again, you going out on social media saying that you are going to hurt someone or kill someone, and like how you're going to do it, that or calling on someone else to go and do that, that is a limitation on speech. Understandably so. Again, you're asking someone to hurt someone, or you're threatening immediately to hurt someone. Okay, cool. That's something where we ask police to intervene. Hate speech, though, is protected by free speech. Incendiary speech is even protected by free speech, and we must do that. Again, the stuff that this guy is advocating for was ugly and bizarre and dangerous, and I will use my speech to speak out against that stuff. But it is protected speech. Again, this was what makes me worried about the new push to go over social media, right, through the division Office of the Office of Counterterrorism within the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services Department of New York State. This is what worries about that stuff, is because the governor doesn't seem to understand where the actual limitations lie on free speech. And not for nothing, you can actually scream fire in a crowd. Like people like Thursday, you can't scream fire in a crowded theater, right? You can actually you can do that if there's a fire in a crowded theater and you're trying to warn people. Like that's when you're supposed to do that. It's again, and even if there's not a fire, there's still some protection to be able to do that sort of thing. It's the really, again, the limitations of free speech from the government going and taking action to detain you side are very, very, very few. There's not a lot that they can go after, and thank goodness for that. There are so many other places where government can ruin your life, kidnap you, fine you, make it difficult for you to get a job. With that, again, it's not to say that your dumb speech, if you say something stupid, there can't be consequences to it in your social life and your career life now, but not from the government. And again, that's what worries about me about what Kathy Hochul is doing, and why I want to continue watching this closely is because the devil's in the details there. And I imagine if she takes things too far and she either ignores the council at the state who tell her that this is probably not going to pass constitutional muster, or they don't tell her that, she does it anyway, we'll end up with expensive lawsuits that we, the taxpayers, will have to pay for, while also having, limited speech in New York State. Again, I probably not speech that I would make, but it's important to protect that all speech, because as soon as the government can start determining the content of what you're saying is dangerous, besides those immediate threats, all of our speech is in danger. Everything's on the table then. It's pretty easy to try to make an exception for hate speech, for the ugly stuff that this Buffalo shooter said. Like, it's easy to say that, right? Like, a lot of people are like, well, of course I don't want to see that anywhere. No one should be saying that. And it understandably leads people to violence. But again, as soon as you start making those exceptions, it's, well, what about this speech? And what about this speech? And what about this? And someone cited, this aspect of your ideology in a violent act later on. Okay. Suddenly everything starts closing in, and the government can determine, like they tried to determine in many cases with discussions around COVID. Well, what is actually dangerous? If you're discussing, either treatment, or you're discussing the truth of where COVID came from, or you're discussing whatever. Again, I might not always agree with that stuff, but we should be allowed to do that, because the argument coming from some government officials, and certainly some folks who are worried about COVID, is, well, even discussing this stuff could lead to people dying. Therefore, we need to shut that down. Certainly, social media companies made that choice, and well, they're private companies. They can do that. It's much different when the state does that, though. It's much different to say your reach is going to be limited on a social platform when there are alternatives available. It's much different to say that than the state is going to come and threaten you with violence, extort you with fines, and threaten to kidnap you for saying something. Again, I don't have to agree with some of the speech that they might be limiting at first to see the danger of what can happen here. It's not to defend that speech, it's to defend the principle that we have to hold on to that. Because as soon as we start making exceptions, again, the conservatives have made plenty of exceptions too. Well, we have to stop this communist stuff. We have to stop critical race theory. We can't allow people to talk about it. Well, again, the moment you start doing that, the moment you start saying, well, it's okay in this situation, your enemies will take that same principle, because we switch sides all the time here in the government. They'll take that same principle and limit your speech as well. And then just keeps ratcheting and ratcheting. And we make those exceptions. Well, it's just the radicals here. It's just this dangerous stuff here. And suddenly we get more and more and more comfortable with limiting speech and limiting discussions and limiting radical ideas, and sometimes even mainstream ideas. And we eliminate our ability to be able to make full-fledged arguments against those bad ideas too, because we need to be able to do that. We need to have this stuff put out in public so we can shut it down too, with our speech, with our ideas, with logic. That's what we ought to do. That's what we ought to strive for in a free society, is to combat this stuff with a legitimate search for truth, and not just accept the government line, or not just accept the opposite of that. Because again, I don't think you're thinking for yourself if you immediately take the opposite position of whatever the government's saying. I don't think that's thinking for yourself either. But the search for actual truth, to figure out what the evidence is, to figure out what is the best way to move forward as a society. And again, that fits into my overall world vision of, well, we should strive for that truth, and we should be free to search for that on our own, and we should be free to build our own solutions and lead our own lives, as long as we're not hurting people or taking their stuff. That's the goal. That's the goal for all of us, to be able to live free and to have control over our own lives as much as possible, and advocate for our vision, for our community, and to be able to build those communities on our own without the state coercing us into any particular vision for what society should look like. Again, to kind of wrap up the Kathy Hochul stuff, we'll talk about just a couple other lingering issues, the any other weapon, the microstabbing, that type of stuff, and then we'll talk a little bit about the monkeypox thing. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're gonna be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
The WYSL store is now open. With nicer weather, your car needs an official Voice of Liberty bumper sticker. There's a great selection to help you show your love of God, the Constitution, and free and safe schools. Here are just a few available. Shut Up, Fauci, Kathy Hochul, Save America, Support the Second Amendment, Scam Alert, January 6th, God, Please Help Us, Close the Mexican Border, Save America, Stop Voting for Democrats. And there are gas pump stickers reading, Democrats did this. These are standard weather-resistant bumper stickers guaranteed to get you horn honks and thumbs up in traffic. Choose from other locally made WYSL Voice of Liberty merch too, like tees, hoodies, drinkware, and more. Perfect gifts for any Liberty lover. Check out the exclusive WYSL Mount Worstmore shirts, hoodies, and coffee mugs depicting our 4 worst presidents. Guess who's front and center? Shop the WYSL store at WYSL1040.com.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
There's a place in the village of Avon you and your critters will love. Whether they're big or small, whether they've got hair, fur, or feathers, Avon Feed fits every need. There's a full selection of pet foods, bird feeders, and wild bird food, plus garden tools, quality grass seed, and a great selection of dry shod boots. Buy 10 bags of quality wild bird food, get the next bag free. Choose farm feeds and great equine products from Poland Grains. Find everything for your pet from feeding bowls to toys, leads, collars, beds, crates, and tie-outs. Avon Feed and Supply has what the big pet chain stores will never have: Tim Cole and his great knowledgeable staff. Choose from premium local products like Firefly, dairy, goat soaps, and lotions. While you're at Avon Feed, don't forget your 2-legged pets with River at Thousand Island cheese and great flavors, including the new 12-year-old cheddar, plus Chef James bourbon meat sauce, once again nut butters and Nunday mustards. Open weekdays 9 to 6, Saturday 9 to 4. Avon Feed and Supply, West Main Street at the bottom of the hill, just west of the Circle.
A free solution.
All right, welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today. Again, we're live here on WYSL until 2 p.m. Give us a call if you want to participate in the show, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Or leave your comments online as well. Again, a Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, Free Solution group, or the Kevin Wilson pages. We'll get to some comments online. Tim O'Connor says, maybe not automatically counter to government, but it's like a good place to start. 18-0. I don't know. Again, sometimes the government's right, sometimes the government's wrong. Here's the thing, Tim. They're just people. They are assuming that you don't think that they're actual lizard people running the government is actually humans who run the government. And that's why we need a limited government, because they have limited knowledge, limited ability to understand the situation. And sometimes they're going to be wrong, sometimes they're going to be right, sometimes they're going to be acting in good faith, sometimes they're going to be acting in bad faith. Again, that's why the founders wanted to limit government, because we have governments run by men, not angels. It's not wise to automatically assume they're wrong. Just approach it with skepticism. That's how I always do this. Again, I don't think that they are particularly different from any of us, other than the fact that their quest for power will often lead them to do things that can be dangerous to our liberty. Again, that's the thing to worry about, is that in order to stay in power, in order to look like they're being proactive and helping our lives and justifying their extraction of resources from the people, they will do things for the sake of doing things, for the sake of looking like they're taking action. And in prime example of that is I know that's probably going to help some folks, but it drives me nuts that we took military planes and flew formula over from Europe while still not actually allowing the free import of formula from Europe. Drives me nuts. Just like, here's the government breaking our legs and then giving us crutches and then acting like they did us a favor. The Biden administration could loosen these regulations. Congress could loosen these regulations that prevent the free importation of formula produced in Europe, regulated by very strict European equivalents of the FDA, and we can't bring it over here. But here's Joe Biden, the hero, bringing us a plane full of formula. Give me a break, dude. We wouldn't be in this situation if it weren't for you. Oh, that makes me so mad. And it just, I know it's going to help some folks in the short term. Hooray. He gets to be the hero, even though he's part of the problem. And Gene says, we need to be able to talk freely about magical money theory. I mean, I don't know which specific theory you're talking about, fiat currency or modern monetary theory, any one of those. Yeah, I mean, we need to talk about all that stuff. And it's fair to question like the nature of fiat currency and whether or not all the money that we're spending now is helpful, whether or not there are consequences to that. Yeah, no, fair, all that stuff. But yeah, again, I'm so mad about the formula thing. Like I feel like I've talked enough about it. We talked about the formula thing on kind of our online only show, Tim and I. But the flying in the formula while also not actually doing anything to solve the underlying issues, by not actually allowing Americans to bring formula in from Canada or Europe. Just classic government. And we're not gonna resolve the underlying issues. It's not gonna happen. We're just going to we're going to blame and point fingers, and politics will go on as usual, and the cartels will remain in place, and Americans will have fewer choices, and we'll still be vulnerable when the next crisis happens, because guess what? It will happen. Inevitably, there will be another issue with formula. But going back to Tim's point, I see some of this attitude, this contrarianism coming in on like the monkeypox discussion, right? Because like, some media folks have, caught on to the story. There's been like a handful of monkeypox cases in the US. So apparently, again, how you get this is like not necessarily contact with monkeys, but contact with rats is usually the common way of doing it. You'll get it from South America. It's a thing that exists in the monkey population, but can often get to humans through rats. There aren't really human-to-human transmissions of this thing, but it could happen. And apparently, monkeypox is so rare nowadays. It used to be a lot more common, but I guess it kind of responds. It's somewhat similar to smallpox. So if you got a smallpox vaccine, you would get some immunity from this. But of course, many people today do not have the smallpox vaccine. They didn't get that. I never got, as far as I'm aware, a smallpox vaccine like my parents did when they were trying to eliminate smallpox around the world, and did so very successfully. Smallpox is virtually non-existent. As far as we know, it only lives in labs, but the almost elimination of monkeypox was a side consequence of that, but now it's around. And but some folks are like, they're seeing the media like report these stories, which of course they're gonna do, right? Because it's interesting, and we're still in the middle of a pandemic of sorts. So like, oh, well, could this be next? Of course, people are gonna click on that. They're gonna do that. The CDC, for their part, they're like, well, we're not really that worried about that. Kind of for the reasons, as I understand them, that I said. If the virus were to mutate or and jump from human to human and lose its effectiveness, there's apparently a vaccine specific to monkeypox that exists already. I don't think that most people in government are there for bad or nefarious reasons. Bill Gates is doing something to sell vaccines, or most people are just trying to do their job, right? And in the process of doing their job, they would make certain concessions about our life that we would not make. Again, this is the problem with the COVID stuff, is they say, well, I can solve the problem by keeping everyone in their homes. And then they all they consider is, this is how we solve the problem. So keep everyone in their homes. Okay, yeah, just don't interact with each other. You won't spread disease. It'll go away eventually. But there's a cost to that that's unbearable to most Americans. Sure, we could do that, but it is too high for most of us. That's not a trade-off that is worth making to us. And that's what I see as the dangerousness of most bureaucrats, is they're just like, well, we got to solve this thing. I don't think it's nefarious in any particular way. It's just that, oh, we got to solve this. This is how we solve it. They don't consider people as people. They consider them as just resources to be moved or controlled, and in a way to solve this issue. But I think most people are genuine in trying to solve things like disease, and they are examining these things. And the big thing to look out for is, again, what are the trade-offs of this? What is the actual danger of this disease? Which right now, government officials saying probably not. They're probably telling the truth about that. We don't think it's particularly dangerous unless X, Y, and Z happen. So that could change. It could become more dangerous if these other things happen. Be skeptical, but you don't need to immediately assume that there's something nefarious afoot because someone is talking about a new disease. And I know Tim says we were working on Kevin being too generous with his benefits of the doubt. No, I mean, not every government official is lying all the time. Be skeptical and question their motives, but keep searching for the actual truth and try to get to that truth that allows you to assess your risk, your freedom, your liberty appropriately, and fight like heck for it. All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. Appreciate y'all listening today. Larry Sharp will be in tomorrow, and I will be back on Wednesday. Have a wonderful week, folks.